What's up, guys? And I am back for another episode of Commentate My Race. Now, we're back at Roebling with FMRRA, same weekend as the last two races that I posted. I promise this will be the last Roebling race for a little bit at least, but at least this one's going to be different in a way. As you can see, it is wet. The last two races that I posted were on the same day, but those happened earlier in the day, so it was nice and dry. But then, at some point after lunch, it just started coming down. Now, rain races are kind of tricky because they are a lot different than riding normally in dry conditions, as you could possibly imagine. First off, we do have rain tires on. It is fully wet. Sometimes when the track surface isn't fully wet or fully dry, kind of makes it a little difficult to choose whether or not you want to go out in rain tires, because if you go out in rain tires on a dry track, you're going to chew them up really quick and they're going to be just basically useless. Then if you go out with slicks or race DOTs on a wet track, they're not going to be able to keep heating them. They're not made to actually channel as much water as you need, so they get kind of sketchy, to say the least. So like I said, full wets because it was just absolutely pouring. There's puddles all in the pit area. No doubt there are puddles all out on the track. You could pretty much see them from any point where you can see the track. So we are basically all gridded up. Now it's kind of cool. Normally, some people just decide not to race when it's raining. They don't want to risk crashing because the chances of crashing in a wet condition is a lot higher than normally would be. But in this case, I guess everyone decided, hey, well, since we're out here, might as well race in the wet. So we actually got a pretty decent sized grid for a wet race. So track marshals are kind of just giving us last second our grid positions in case we didn't know them before we head out to the track and do our sighting lap. Now, and this is my first lap, or at least my first time going out since it's raining. So the sighting lap is especially important because this will give me an opportunity to kind of see where the big puddles are, what kind of lines I want to take, what things on the track I need to avoid. All right, so here we go. Now, I know you guys seen the sighting lap a bunch of times, but in this case, I'm not going to fast forward like I was thinking about doing earlier. I'm going to kind of go through like you guys and do a sighting lap. So far it's relatively dry. You see there's a nice puddle of water on the right hand side. Kind of want to avoid that. And you see puddles, they may or may not be puddles. Sometimes, you know, the track is glossy. There's just a little more water on that part of the track than the other parts, but it doesn't mean that it's like fully submerged puddle. Now, even with absolute wets, and they're made, the wet tires are made to run in wet conditions like this. They have a ton of grooves that channel water away so that, you know, you're not going to hydroplane as much. And also the carcass, or not the carcass, but the compound that they use for the wet tires is super soft, ridiculously soft. So you don't have, like, it doesn't take much to get them up to temperature. You don't actually need to get them up to temperature. They're already sticky as it is. And that's why, like, if you try to run wets in the dry, you'll chew them up in a lap or two. They are just that soft. So we're seeing some puddles around. It's still raining quite a bit. This area right here, turn 6, there's a big puddle to the left. You get in that, you'll still hydroplane. If the puddle's deep enough, you'll still hydroplane the bike, and that's a pretty scary situation. The whole right side of the track seems to be kind of puddled, but it's not nearly that bad, at least until the apex of this corner right here. You can see people kicking up a bunch of water. To the right is a huge puddle. I mean, like, it's pretty deep. You want to avoid that at all possible. Here, there's no avoiding this puddle. It just goes across the entire length of the width of the track. Crazy. So lots of water getting kicked up. Not much of an issue actually for me riding the bike. The visor does a pretty good job of kind of not like beating up with water and getting and losing visibility. So and also the wind from kind of like moving forward also kind of helps push that water off the visor. So, you know, the camera is not nearly as good as the visor because it's flat, so it's going to catch that water, and the wind is not going to be able to do as good of a job getting that water off. Alright, gridding up. So we did a sighting lap. It's a bit sketchy, but it's doable. You know, there's times when the water is so bad, it's so deep, it's just not safe at all. And there are times when, you know, with certain race organizations, they'll let you do 2 sighting laps to kind of get a better lay of the land before you go out. And they'll ask us if we want to do it if it's really that bad. And if most of the riders are like, no, we're not going to do it, then they usually cancel the race. But here we are. We're about to start. Revs are kind of up because really slow start. There's Alberto got a good start, and so does the next guy. Really took off. But I'm like, I don't want to spin the tire too much and kind of throw myself off the bike this early in the race. So nice and easy. You don't want to touch the brakes. You generally just don't want to touch the brakes, especially in a corner in wet conditions. I mean, the bike is already having a hard enough time with grip as it is. If you touch the brakes, it could upset your chassis, the contact patch, and it's really easy to go down. So a lot of your braking has to be done in a straight up and down. Now these guys aren't leaving me too bad. Still sticking with them, letting them kind of decide or feel out the track at a higher speed, so that I could kind of swoop in once I figure out that I don't have to be nearly as conservative as they do. But it's still a risky biz to try to just really push it on the first lap. Big puddles of water you want to avoid. For the most part, we're doing a good job of not hitting those huge puddles of water, though we're still kicking up quite a bit. Nice and slow here. Want to avoid that inner apex because, as you can see, tons of water. And this point, lots of water. You want to just kind of, just want to kind of take it easy through there. Don't want to chop the throttle. Don't want to add too much throttle. Just kind of want to just take it at a neutral pace through there. This area, really bumpy, kind of scary, especially when it's wet. But not too bad. All right, now the turn is opening up. Back on the gas. Now in wet conditions, unless there's a huge puddle on the long straight, you could just hammer it, wide open throttle. It won't hurt anything. But when you come up to this first turn, got to off a bit early, downshifts, a little bit of brake, but off the brakes as soon as you're tipping in. Keep my distance to the people in front of me. It seems like the people behind me are generally keeping distance, maybe getting a little bit closer. Hard to tell. There's a lot of like water droplets on the camera. Nice and easy through turn 3. Nice and easy through turn 4. Kind of go out wide. Oh, Aaron. Slick move there, man. Oh man, just kicking up water like crazy. Now Aaron is actually really good at wet riding. Like he said he had a lot of practice at Road Atlanta, having to learn the limits of the wet tires, and he feels rather confident in them. A lot more confident than I feel, obviously. Now he's going around the other guy. Brave stuff, I have to say. Just a huge puddle of water there. Every time it just kind of scares me a little bit. Alright, I think I got the run up on this guy. Nice and easy. Don't want to spook him, don't want to spook myself. When I feel it's safe, I'm going to hammer it. Maybe a little too late. He's got a little bit of a run. Alright, got past him. But he's a little braver going into turn 1 that time. And he just parks it. It's a bit scary sometimes when people close the door on you in wet conditions, because you have nowhere to go and you don't want to like wrench the bar one way or another to try to avoid them. Alright, another guy passed me. Now everyone in front of me so far, except for the guy that just passed me, was an amateur, so I still was winning the race up to that point. I didn't know that guy that just passed me, it was on Aprilia 675, was an expert. I thought he was an amateur, but either way, this was the one race of that weekend that I didn't win. I'm okay with that. Alright, setting up this guy, trying to get as close as I can at a long straight area, because I'm not really confident trying to pass him in the middle of a turn. But I feel confident. I think I get him this time around. He's going a bit wide, trying to avoid that big puddle on the inside. Now you can't really see it, but like there is an effect when we cross those puddles on our bike. You could feel it through the bike, but you can't really see it through the camera. Alright, I think I'm getting the good run on him. I'm going to try to just really get hard on the gas out of this one. Dude's got a pretty strong bike. Alright, down 3 shifts. Normally I just take 2 from 6th to 4th. That's normally in dry conditions. In wet conditions I'll go down to 3rd to kind of slow me down a little more, because I don't want to be taking that turn too fast. And if you saw my other videos, link up in the upper right hand corner, my lap times here in the dry were like 116s, 117s, around that pace. I'm doing like 147. That's, yeah. That's how tentative I am, at least through this part. Now this isn't the first time I've ever raced in the wet, okay? And it's not the first time I've raced in the wet here at Roebling. This will probably be my 2nd time racing like during a weekend in wet conditions at Roebling. And for the most part, you know, compared last time I raced here, I did a really decent job against people that are generally a lot faster than me. This time around, I don't know. I probably had that little survival instinct kind of hitting me hard right now, keeping me from going too fast. I'm catching up to Alejandro. Now, he told me later on that he's on DOTs. He's not on like rain tires. He is, which is super brave. I mean, I don't know. If I only had DOTs, I don't think I would have gone out in these conditions. But I think Alejandro has a lot of like dirt experience, a lot of being able to kind of feel the bike. So he's a brave man. So at this point, I'm pretty sure I'm 3rd overall. Aaron is checked out. The other guy is somewhere between me and him right now. You can kind of see him going through turn 2 right now in the screen. And I'm in 3rd at the moment, 3rd overall, which is okay because like these races don't pay. These races weren't the ones that paid out. This is the sprints, so they were only 6 laps, and they had no purse. Not unlike the Grand Courses, which were 12 laps, and they had a purse for the overall podiums. Again, taking it just pretty much easy. Now that I don't really have that many, like anybody like in front of me for a while, I want to catch up to him, but at the same time, my risk tolerance is not that high, and I guess I don't care that much to do it. But if it's in consolation, there's like whoever's behind me, I left them behind. And as far as lap times go, as you can see to the right, my lap times are dropping. I am getting more confident in these wet conditions. Hard on the gas coming out through here. Like I said, full throttle. No need to lollygag. Just go. As long as there's no big puddles along the way to hit, you're gonna be all right. Let off early again. Down 3 and tip in, nice and easy. Again, another 2.5 that time off my lap times. So improving. Very much improving every lap. And at the end of the weekend, I think, in wet conditions, it dried up a little bit, but it was still wet conditions. I was able to get down to low 30s with rain tires on this track. And this is going to be the last lap of the race. Feeling more confident, but still taking it easy. trying to avoid those puddles like the plague. Now, one of the things is that if what people will say is that when it starts drying up and you're still on rain tires, you want to actually go over puddles on a drying track, because you're putting a lot of heat and wearing the rain tires down quite a bit, and having the water to cool it back down will prolong that life a little bit at least, you know. So if you start in really wet conditions and it starts drying, you'll notice that you have a lot of grip, but at the same time, on a drying track, once you can see a dry line, you kind of want to shoot for those puddles to cool those tires down so you can last the entire race. Now, generally with sprints, not a big deal. And okay, last lap there, that was it. That was the race, 1:39. But as I was saying, when you can see a drying line, you want to go for those wet spots to cool down those tires, because those rain tires are just going to shred, and you're not going to have the grip or the drive to be able to like kind of fight towards the end. So doing that, it's kind of a little strategy for those situations. Now, as I was saying, not that big of a deal for these sprints. Only 6 laps. Sometimes the rain tires can go that long if you're careful with them. But for the longer races, 12 laps plus 20 laps, you know, some of the pro guys will do like 17, 20 laps. In those cases, it's pretty important to try to find any way to conserve the rain tires. So we were pretty much done here, and that was the end of the race. Just on my cooldown lap, coming back into the pits. Yeah, guys. I mean, like I decided to put out this race instead of another dry race at another track like Homestead, which I promise next race will be Homestead. I wanted to put a race out like this because it's different. You know, you don't see that many wet races out there and people talking about it and how they're feeling through them. And if you're interested in riding wet yourself, you could do it. You know, rain tires are not an absolute must. Having race DOTs or street tires will actually do you fairly well, but it's doable as long as you're careful with it. You know, you can't ride in the wet like you ride in the dry. Obviously, the grip isn't there. But if you ever get a chance to do it, I suggest you take that chance. Go as slow as you need to, because there's no need to really push it. Just kind of feel it out, and you'll realize it is actually a lot of fun. Now, it also kind of sucks that like afterwards you're just soaked, drenched, wet. There's water in your boots. Your bike is like, you know, just covered in water, and water is starting to seep into a lot of those crevices between, you know, like where the bolts are bolting in. So here's a word of advice: like when you go and you are racing in the wet, when you get your bike home, you want to kind of just check all your bolts. Check all your bolts, loosen them, check your axles, anything that like water get into, WD-40 it to get the water off. That way, because like once the water like dries and it hardens, it leaves some kind of residue that just makes it really tough and kind of seizes bolts and axles and whatnot. So you heard it here first, if you've never heard it before. So in any case, I'm gonna go ahead and call it for this video. If you liked that rain race, give me a thumbs up. If you like just seeing that there was a rain race out there on YouTube, hit that like button as well. If you have any questions about riding in the wet or rain, or if you yourself ride in the rain on the street or otherwise, more so like I'm more interested in the track stuff. But let me know in the comments below. Tell me what you guys think. Hit that subscribe button if you're new here or not subscribed yet. And with that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.